Man, I just talked for like 5 minutes all by myself again. I thought I hit the go live because it turned blue, but blue means it's blue just means you can push the live button because it was grayed out for the first couple of minutes. And then when it turned blue and I clicked it, I was like, okay, good. But God, I'm so sorry. Again, this live streaming is still new to me, I guess, even though I've done 10 of them. I just can't get this right. Uh Okay, Bob, I got that. That's cool. And thanks again for the your donation. I really appreciate that. I didn't get a chance to email everyone back yet, but there was 4 or 5 of you that dropped a couple bucks in for me, and I really appreciate that. Um, yeah, good morning. I'm so sorry I started so late again. I just had trouble with this live streaming for some reason. Uh, but today I'm gonna pay very careful attention to the audio, because if I have to switch to another screen or something, I can I'll make sure the audio is working. The other thing is you guys don't hear my little space heater down there, I hope, because it's roaring in my ear. Because it got down to 30 something degrees last night here, which is close to 0 Celsius, right? And I don't I don't turn the heat on in my house unless I have to. Like it gets below freezing, then I'll turn the heat on. Uh, use the cap panel wool is. I'm not sure. How do I put the OMD M10 Mark III on manual focus? You have to go into the super control panel, and then where you see S-AF, which is usually the default, or CAF, you can rotate usually the rear or front dial to change that to MF, which is manual focus. Another mode that's available is like S-AF and -M, which is you have pressed the shutter button, it'll autofocus, but if you want to tweak it a little, while holding the button half down, you can turn the focus ring on the lens and manually focus, then take the picture. Okay, good. You don't hear any background noise. Good. So I can leave the heater on because let me tell you, I'm cold. Put my vest on and everything. Uh, yeah, MF. M as in Michael, F as in Frank. Uh, so that's that. And someone had asked that I try to have the. That's not what I wanted. This is just crazy. I was trying to get this over so so people could see the because someone had asked in the last live stream that I when I'm answering questions I need to read them out loud or just show them. I'm going to put them over here for now, and hopefully that'll work. All right. Hi from Israel. Hello. Finland. All right. Awesome. What is the best settings for EPL8 on manual 1? I'm not sure what you mean by manual 1. You want to shoot in manual mode? You're wondering what settings to use? Or, yeah, if you could elaborate that a little bit, Lydia, that would help me answer the question a little better. But, yeah, I love this little EPL8. While you're formulating your question, I took it out yesterday for some vlogging. And I just hooked a little wireless. I got this new Harmonic thing. I guess I've talked about that before, and the 17, and I shot it side by side with my Fuji X100. Yeah, I'm on a green screen today. Uh, okay, so hi Rob, watching from Thailand. Here now, sound and vision excellent. Thanks for all your work. Oh, thank you. You're welcome. And that's the thing is my channel's really about focusing on, beginning photographers and entry level cameras, because that's really the people that need the most help. A lot of channels they focus on all the newest gear coming out, or they kind of rush through a lot of the menu settings because they have a certain familiarity with it already and assume that the viewer does as well. And it can be really hard for somebody that is just starting out and you know, trust me, can't even format a memory card sometimes. Because man, when I got that Fuji XF10 or X100F, where is that thing anyway? I couldn't even format the memory card when I got it. I was like, "God, where is it?" um, okay, so Andrea says, how can I change creative mode to another when I'm in the mode after a shot on the Pen F? Oh, what I do is I just turn the wheel. If you're in the color creative mode and you want to go to mono, I just turn it right on the fly. And then when you go back, it'll be at the same settings. And if you want to change to a different mode within the same creative mode, like don't turn the dial but change the color profile too, you do that in the super control panel. Is it common for the Pen F button plate to scratch so easily? Yes. Let me look at mine. Well, I covered mine. The battery door itself is plastic, so that's just going to scratch. The rest of it, yeah, it's just painted metal. So the paint's going to scratch. But that said, it's pretty durable. And then when I put this plate on with this little grip, I love this grip, by the way. Because it doesn't come up too high. And when I put my fingers in, I don't rub my finger against the color dial. Let's see. Hi, Rob from Australia. You have a great channel. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Beryl. Hopefully, yeah. Okay, Andres. I hope I answered that question. And Lydia, oh, manual mode. Okay, so all right, sorry. Lydia, let me get back to her question real quick. There's M on the mode dial, right? So you put that into manual mode. And when you're in manual mode, first thing I would do is open the lens wide open to whatever it is. So if you're using a kit lens, it might be f3.5. A prime lens will be like f1.8. So open the lens wide open. And then you need to put your camera into auto ISO. And sometimes you have to go into the menu to do that so that you can enable auto ISO. And then I would set the shutter speed based on the lighting conditions. So if you're in very low light, you might need to be at 1/30th of a second at the minimum. If you're in daytime, bright daylight, I would be at, say, 1/500th of a second. And if it's kind of cloudy out, maybe 1/100th, 1/200th of a second. So you're going to have to adjust your shutter speed constantly based on the lighting conditions. And if you're using flash, then you need to be at 1/60th of a second all the time. So what you need to study maybe is what they call the Sunny 16 rule. And then once you practice a little bit with that, you can gauge what settings you need for manual mode. But I hope that helps a little. Look at your go into workspace and look at the pictures you've taken and look at what the settings are. In shutter speed, aperture, and ISO for the different kinds of pictures that you took, and that'll kind of give you an idea of where you need to make your settings in manual mode. But for manual mode, if you're going to control everything, ISO, aperture, set your ISO to 200 then, if you're going to set your ISO also fixed. And then the shutter speed, the same thing, 1/30th to 1/500th of a second, depending on the light, with your lens wide open. Hi, do I ever still use film? Yes, I do actually. I got one shot left on this, I think. This is my OM2S. I actually like my OM2 better than this one. Only because This one jams sometimes. I bought this as a off eBay as a you know, as is, like it wasn't working when they sold it, and I took the bottom plate off and I messed with the gears a little bit and it unjammed. So it works about 80% of the time without jamming, but then sometimes it'll jam. But I do shoot film, and a good used camera is if you want to go with Olympus, the OM2 or OM2N is probably your best bet. If you want to go, if you go older than that, the problem is getting batteries for it, because the meter still needs to use batteries. If you get the OM2N or even this OM2S, if you can get this in good condition, this is not a bad camera. But I think the OM2N is still all mechanical. It doesn't need a battery to actually take a picture. You just have to take pictures without a meter. But this one, if the battery is weak, it won't take a picture. So, I never had a battery problem, but OM2N, because the OM1, you have to get those special like batteries, and then they sell conversion kits so you can put more modern batteries in. Like I think it's an LR44 is the modern battery version. You don't want to start spending money on conversions unless you get heavy into film. So a good beginner camera also is the Olympus OM10. It's fairly cheap. Under $100 with a lens, and that's very, very popular with people beginning in film. If you're interested in like non-Olympus cameras, I think Nikon, the Nikon FM2 maybe is a good choice. I'm looking at that one myself. I think it's the FM2. I kind of stopped looking for a little while because I got my OM2S working, but okay, so where did I get the grip? I got it on Amazon. I'll put a link to it later. I don't. Let me just hold on. I'll show you. Hopefully I can do this without losing sound. Sorry, I lost sound. But yeah, I just bought it a couple of weeks ago. It wasn't $68 when I bought it. I think I paid $25. Uh, but yeah. Okay, so let's see. Yeah, the latest workspace, I think you mean, not workroom. Somebody said it has something more to do with the some computers the firmware update wasn't working. Something like that. I don't know. I didn't notice any difference really. Yeah, pass when the hold on. The thumb grip, yeah, my thumb grip came off, right? I don't know if you can see that. Let me get some light on there. You see that? I bought something called Sugru, I think it's called. And what you do is it's like a little piece of clay, and you form it to the shape that you want. You stick it on, and it's like glue. You have to let it dry overnight, like for 24 hours. But once it's dry, it's still got a nice rubber kind of feel to it, but it's solid, and it hasn't come off, and it's been almost a year, I think I've had this on here. So I'll try and get close. And then what I did is I just added a little bit of texture to it myself while it was still soft. So you can form it, put a little ribs into it, and then I made it actually a little bit bigger than the original rubber grip on my Pen F. Let's see. Is it okay to pair the EPL with the 12 to 40? Yeah, it's fine. Man, I'm using the 12 to 40 now. I'd show you what it looks like. The only challenge I have with it is it's a little bit bulky on the Pen PL8. So you're going to have to hold it with two hands almost all the time. Unless you got good strong fingers now and you can hold it, because the PL8 doesn't have much of a grip. But it fits on here fine. And works great. It's just it's a little bit bulky in my opinion. You know, you may want to look at I don't know, honestly I would just stick with the kit lens. I don't see the point of going to a pro lens, 12 to 40 Pro for a PL8. Hi Rob, you did a video on the moon. I've tried, but my autofocus just hunts and attempts to try to focus, but it's often just a blur. Do you turn? No, I didn't turn autofocus off. In my video, I was just using single point autofocus. But what I did, the focus is I focused on the edges of the moon, on the outside of on the circle part, right between the moon and the black sky, and it picks up on that just no problem, because that's a very high contrast area, right? If you try to focus directly on the moon, it's a little bit too bright initially. So make sure you do the settings that I recommended in there. I can't remember what they were now. And then when you focus, do single point autofocus and focus on that corner. The Nikon N80 is a great auto. Yeah, it's okay. I have a, you know, another, if you got a lot of vintage Nikon glass, the N75 is even cheaper. I got 15 more pictures or 16 more pictures I need to take on this one. This is a good film camera. It's kind of plasticky, but it's very small and lightweight, and it has a really good grip. So and it'll work with any Nikon lens, even the modern ones. So that's why I use this. The N80 is just a beefed up version of this with you know, I think it has weather sealing too, but it's a little bit bigger camera. This one is smaller than the N80, and it does everything the N80 does. Hi, good morning, Thomas. Anyone had Eric's asked it with a fancy highlight shadow feature in the M10 where blown out parts are red and crushed parts are blue. No, I never had a stuck pixel. Wow, that's interesting. I never had a stuck pixel. That's that would be news to me. All right, good night, Rod. Sorry, man. Maybe I need to start a little earlier. Yeah, thanks, John. Sugru Glue, Sugru. Yeah, it works great. I mean, that thing is amazing. I mean, it's like $10 or $15, but you get enough to do 10 Pen Fs with that. you get in a little box like this. I use an OMD. Brian's saying I use an OMD Mark II. Recently was looking at file size and JPEG set to LF between 4 and 8 megapixels. This is normal, or can I get larger file sizes? RAW is a. It's normal. It's normal. Now I did a video. Oh, it's really long and dry. When I was comparing JPEGs to the RAW files, and JPEGs in general, they take a 12-bit file and compress them down to 8 bits. So that cuts, say, a 20 megapixel file down to 10 megapixels almost instantly. And then if you do any enlarge fine, okay, is about 80% of that. So that's why you're getting like between 4 and 8 megapixels. But if you change your JPEG setting to SF superfine, you'll get a little bit larger settings. So search for my video on JPEGs and you'll see you'll see how to do that in the comparisons, because I really pixel peep on the JPEG, different JPEG settings. And really large fine is good enough, but you know, if you can do super fine, why not? That'll get you 10 or 11 megapixels at most if you do super fine, but more than large fine, because large fine is only about 80% of what super fine is. Hi Rob, do you think you can recommend any lightweight and waterproof lenses for there just aren't any yet. The 14 to 150 is probably the lightest of the waterproof lenses that I know of. And that comes with the M5 Mark III. Maybe that's why they included it as a part of the kit, at least here in the US. But other than that, you have to go pro lenses as far as I know. I don't know of any other waterproof lenses. Yeah, Andres is saying that the 12 to 40 on a Pen F was not too bulky. It's okay. You know, the Pen F's a little bigger than the PL8, and definitely with the grip that I bought with it, it won't be a problem. But I still like small lenses. Roy's asking, how do you find out the picture count on a used camera? Thanks. Okay, there is a on Olympus cameras. There's a button sequence that you do when you turn it on. I don't remember it off the top of my head, but I got it from a YouTube video. So search for Olympus shutter count, and it's like a 3 or 4 minute video, and it walks you through the button steps to check the shutter count on your camera or on a camera. And once you kind of do it a few times, it's easy to remember. But I would bring the instructions with you if you're going somewhere to look at a camera to check the shutter count. But it's something to do with when you turn the camera on, you're holding down like the menu button, and then you immediately press up, left, right, down, okay. You know, there's you know, it's like a video game, right? Some secret code. But yeah, search for that YouTube video on shutter count for Olympus cameras, and you'll find it pretty easily because there's only one or two of them. John's saying no way sequential bracketing with one press of the shutter button without sequential mode shooting. Most cameras engage bracketing automatically, then return to default or give user a choice. Now when you say sequential bracketing, I mean there's about 5 or 6 different bracketing modes. Which one are you referring to? Like focus bracketing, exposure bracketing, or you know, art bracketing? If you could be a little more specific. But as far as I know, you don't have to be in sequential shooting for bracketing. In fact, I think it shoots one shot at a time for, say, exposure bracketing. So what I have to do is I set up a custom shutter for focus bracketing. So if I'm going to bracket 5 shots, right? +1, +2, 0, -1, -2. I'll set up a custom shutter of 5 shots with no without refocusing, 0 delay between shots, etc. And I did do a video on focus bracketing. I think it's called Bracketing Made Easy. But yeah, it's called Bracketing Made Easy. I do talk about how to set up the custom shutter if you just want to push the shutter button once and have it fire for you automatically. I hope that answered your question, John, I think. Which monitor do I use for editing? I have like this 10-year-old monitor. It's an AOC, but I like the wide ones, right? That are like 2500 pixels by 1980 by 1080. It's I'll show it to you. Just ignore my messy desk. This is the one that I use. It's an AOC, but it's one of those wide ones, right? So I have wide space over here and here that I'm not using right now. But that helps me a lot. Okay. Oh, messing with my green screen here. All right. But any wide monitor, they're so cheap now. I paid like 500 bucks for this one, you know, when it came out. Can you tell us? Yeah, AE bracketing. Okay, so yeah, exposure bracketing. Um, yeah, no, with bracketing in the Olympus cameras, I have to go in and disable it. It doesn't automatically go back to the default mode after you do the bracketing. So I don't do it enough to to know if there's a workaround. But when I do the bracketing, say in my real estate work, I have a C1 and C2, and I just switch between the two. Like one is for flash and one is for exposure bracketing. Uh, and that's my workaround. is I have two custom buttons, one for ambient light that's bracketed, and then one for flash, and I switch between C1 and C2, or my set 1 and my set 2 in the EM10's case. What am I saying? You know, Rom, I'm sorry. Can you tell us what are your settings for C1 to C3? It changes depending what I'm going to be doing. So what I like to do is before I is set up the camera for what my goal is, photographically speaking. So usually I like C1 to be sort of the baseline full auto mode, aperture priority. And then C1 or C2 and C3 I like to be my creative or experimental settings. So those will change constantly depending what I'm doing. So to give you an example, on my Pen PL8 yesterday, you know, they use my sets instead of C1, C2. But I set up my set 1 actually to bracket a vivid color profile and a monotone profile. So I did a art bracketing so that every time I push a shutter button, it would take a raw picture, a vivid picture in JPEG, and a monotone picture in black and white with custom highlight shadow settings. And that's what I normally do on any of the cameras. I'll always have one mode that's, you know, basic, you know, quick, get the shot type thing, so I don't have to think about the settings. And then I'll set up the other settings, the my sets or the custom settings, to be something creative or experimental that I'm trying. The shutter on my EM10 Mark II has recently intermittently become stuck open. Usually removing the battery, reinserting, and doing a full reset will solve the problem. The only thing I can tell you is cameras are very sensitive to voltage in a battery. So maybe your battery's getting weak, or you got one of those generic batteries. See if you can get, you know, put a fully charged battery in, you know, from the Olympus original battery, and see if you still get that problem. And then as the battery starts to drain, if it starts getting stuck at that point, then I would say you probably just need to buy all new batteries. If that doesn't cure the problem, let's say it's a relatively new camera, like the battery's less than a year old and it's the Olympus original battery, I would see if you can get warranty work done on it, because it shouldn't do that. Any recommendation for a send to shop repair in the US? I bought it. I don't have any, Thomas. I would say I would send it directly to Olympus. They were really good to me. I mean, mine was under warranty, so they had to be. But you can send it in there. There's one in Pennsylvania, I believe, a repair center, and I think the head of the U.S. Olympus guy lives in Pennsylvania. That's why it's there. So you might want to try that. Um, A bracketing with one press of the shutter button requires use of sequential mode. Oh, really? Okay. So you're saying if I put my shutter into like continuous low and I'm in a bracketing mode, it'll, let's say I'm doing 5 bracketed shots and I push a shutter button, it'll automatically fire 5 shots off? That's interesting. I didn't know that. I used a custom shutter, but I think you still have to turn bracketing off for it to go back to normal mode. Luminar, yes, I was given a sample copy for Luminar. The question is, do I have any experience with Luminar? And I think for editing single images, it's fine. It does a good job. I haven't played with it since they added a couple of things like the cloud replacement or sky replacement and some kind of AI thing everybody's bragging on now. Uh, just for simple editing, it seems to be fine. There's some. What I didn't like about it though, because they sent me an evaluation copy, about a year ago, and I just didn't like the cataloging features. They were virtually non-existent at the time, and they still weren't great the last time I looked at it when they updated being able to load files into Luminar so you can choose and pick which ones you want to edit. It just doesn't hold a candle to Lightroom's cataloging features. So to this day, I still use Lightroom to catalog all my images. And for editing my Olympus files, I actually use Workspace, but I import everything into Lightroom first and then catalog them, add keywords, etc. Just for that purpose. But then I use Workspace actually to edit. Yeah, the digital. Okay, so have I? Yeah, the digital teleconverter is fine. I use it time to time. Like when I put my 12 millimeter or my 17 millimeter prime on, and I want to get a little closer. Now you're not going to really get better image quality with respect to. It still takes the full frame in RAW, but the JPEG image is upsampled to say 16 megapixels when it should be 8. But it's upsampled to 16 megapixels, and the quality is very good. It does a good job. The only time I really need to use it though is when I want to, zoom in, right, and compose the shot, because I can't get the composition from where I am. But I try to avoid it just for the sake of trying to use one lens and zooming with my feet. But if I have to, I'll use it. It's really, yeah, it's not bad though. For the EM5 Mark III review, be aware of polycarbonate and its light yet tough properties. Look it up to placate the plastic naysayers. Oh, okay. Yeah, you know what? I've been thinking about that because I was watching Peter's video on his, like, he just did one where he was answering questions about the EM5, and he was surprised about how much flack he was getting about or not he, but the camera was getting about the plastic build. And it occurred to me that my little TG5 here is all plastic, and this is their toughest camera by far. It's not metal at all. It's totally plastic. And I have dropped this thing, and it went flying across the street, literally about 10 or 15 feet, head over like this. God knows what other, angles this thing got smashed at. And when I look at it, well, if I look at it without my glasses, it looks perfect, because my eyes are so bad. But there is not a frickin' scratch on it. even from dropping it a couple of times on the concrete. Oh, I take that back. Right here. Right here. There's a... See if I can get my... Right there. There's a little bit of a notch right here. But if you look at the rest of it, I mean, look how clean that is. And let me tell you, I dropped this a lot. So if the EM5 Mark III is built anything like this with the same plastics, it's going to be a tough camera. And the metal cameras, if you drop a metal camera like I do, like this Pen PL8, now it's not premium metal, but yeah, look at that dent in there. I don't know if that's really showing. I've dropped this so many times, my screen doesn't go flat anymore. But I've dropped this almost as many times as my any other camera I have. And yeah, I've dropped my Pen F, and it's got a little ding on the bottom plate somewhere. It's hidden now because I have my plate here, but you might be able to see it. It's in the corner. I got face detect on, so it's... I mean, they're really tough cameras, no matter what. Whether they're made of metal or plastic, the Olympus cameras, I've dropped them a lot. But that being said, my TG5 is full on plastic body, and this thing has been tough as nails. So, you know, it's crush proof, free proof, all that good stuff. So I wouldn't worry about the plastic on the EM5 Mark III if it's anything like that, because Olympus, it's not like Olympus has never done it before. They do it with their TG5 cameras. The X100F, no, I haven't returned it yet. I'm really close. I'm not a fan of that camera. I took it out again. Yes, oh, here it is. I took it out again yesterday. You like my lens cap for it? I took it out again yesterday, and the problem I'm having with it is it's not going to work for me with the kind of photography I do. One is it's very soft, wide open, close up. So I'm not a fan of that. So if I'm at f2 and I'm like this close to the subject, and I do that a lot in my photography, I get very close. It's very soft. And then let's say that's not a big deal, because I'm not a pixel peeper so much. Well, sometimes I am, but I could get past that. That wouldn't be a deal breaker for me, because I can stop at the 2.8 or f4 and it's tack sharp and I can get close. But the problem I have is there's no image stabilization whatsoever. And when I reviewed my shots between my Pen PL8 and my X100F side by side, because I take them out side by side the last 3 or 4 walks I went, when I start to get into low light and that shutter speed gets below 1/60th of a second, you know, the images from the PL8 at 1/10 of a second, 1/8 of a second are tack sharp. Whereas I can definitely see motion blur up to about 1/30th of a second on the X100F. And that's not the camera's fault, right? I mean, I should be on a tripod or have steadier hands, but my hands are not that steady, apparently. And unless I'm like really full on using every technique known to photographers on how to make a steady camera, I'm having a hard time getting tack sharp images out of it because of the shutter speed. Now I was at ISO 12,800 at 1/10 of a second, and I got a blurry image. So I couldn't bump the ISO any higher with the way that camera is. I mean, I'm happy to go to 25,000, but that wouldn't have helped. I'd be at 1/20th of a second, right? And it'd still be blurry. So that's the challenge I'm having. So and like I said, it's not the camera's fault. It's more of I can't hold the camera steady. Yeah, okay, Thomas. Yeah, try the battery change out. Oh, sorry, Beryl. It's 2 a.m., huh? Okay, try to catch me on the Thursday live stream. I might have to do 3 live streams, right? At 3 different times of the day. I don't know. Yeah, John, that's right. Yeah. Okay. So you have to turn, yeah, you do have to turn bracketing off, but I didn't know you could fire off 5 shots on a single press if you're in sequential shooting mode, like continuous low. I'll have to try that. That's pretty good. That's a good tip. Because I had been setting up. Okay. Do you use any of the online services? No, I don't. Uh, yeah, I don't have a very good backup plan. Um, I upload everything to Google Photos as a JPEG when I can. But yeah, if I lost everything, and I use old fashioned, make two drives. Like you can see, this one is 2014, 15, 13, and then this one is like uh, 2013 to 17. So there's some overlap here between these two drives. I mean, it's kind of an archaic. And then I have another 6 terabyte drive over there that continually backs up whatever's on my computer. But yeah, I don't use anything online because I'm just too cheap. I mean, I I don't want to spend 100 200 bucks a year. I can just buy another drive. Ultimately, that's going to fail, right? Because drives are not known to live forever. But uh, yeah, so if anyone has any backup questions, I'm not the person to ask. Okay. Hold on. Let's see. I have to scroll up a little bit. Uh, John, I don't know. The 12 to 50 is okay. I'm just not a fan of it because of the physical size. And it doesn't offer that much over the kit lens. So I if you can sell it for 150 bucks and get something else, I would. That if it were me. I'm amazed you do good photography despite bad eyes and yeah, I know. Thanks. I don't think my photography is that great to be honest, but thank you. Yeah, hand holding 300 millimeters is tough. You need to have like the EM5 Mark II or the EM1 Mark II to really get the best stabilization for something that long. The EM10 is okay, and the PL8s and stuff, forget it. The stabilization is just not good enough if you have slightly shaky hands. I found that the EM1 Mark II is pretty good, and the EM5 Mark II is not as good as the EM1, but it's pretty good too. What exactly is the black tape you use to hide lettering? Oh, it's just electrical tape. This stuff. I keep this handy. Um, it just makes the camera a little more discreet, right? Like this one has no black tape on it, right? And people can see that a mile away. Versus, this has black tape. Well, this is a better example, right? So face on, I mean, one is more discreet than the other. It's just about blending in. It's not like you're trying to be sneaky, right? But it's about blending in and just making yourself as neutral as possible. So when I go out, I also like to wear, dark shirts. This navy blue, for example, I wear a lot. And when I buy jackets, I buy black jackets or dark navy blue jackets. And then I wear dark jeans. So you don't want to dress, creepy, but you want to just dress nicely in dark colors and then tape out your camera so that when you're walking around, you just blend in and people don't really, they notice you, but they don't really, it doesn't stand out like a sore thumb, right? Uh, yeah, yeah. I wish putting an Olympus cap on this on this X100F would make it sharper. But let's see. I'd like to get into photography biz since, oh wait, aftermarket batteries which have a good luck with so far. I like Wasabi. Oh, sorry, let me go back. Recently I bought an Ollie 4150. I have the EM1 version 1 and 14 to 42 kit, lightweight, cheap, and travel thrift. Yeah, the risk is lower, right? Because you don't have a ton invested. Not that that's not a small amount of money. I mean, that's still, if I bought all of that stuff, it would be about a $600 kit for me, right? Maybe $700. That's still a chunk of change. But you're not going to be crying like you would if you had an EM1 Mark II or an EM1X and that got lifted. Or a Leica, right? God, $5,000 Leica, somebody steal that, I would have insurance for that. Aftermarket batteries. You know, I just buy, when I buy aftermarket batteries, I'm buying the charger, and then I look for the deal. I buy the charger that I want first, and then I buy whatever batteries come with it. Just don't matter to me because they all go bad. You know, the only, and I mentioned this I think before, is the only third-party battery that has any cred is Watson. Because I read an article from a Fuji guy that was testing every generic battery out there, including Wasabi, and they were all the same. They all swole up after a while. They all had lower power ratings than the Olympus original, but the Watson was the only one. There was one other brand, I think it was Evergreen. I can't remember exactly because it didn't come in this. It didn't come in the right size that I needed. But Watson was the only WATSON was the only one for Fuji that had the rating close enough and it worked. And the problem with third-party batteries, oh, hold on. Oh, here's one. This is, they got all, you know, you got all these pins, right? This is an original battery. One of these pins is to detect heat inside the battery. And on third-party batteries, they blank that so that it tells the camera that there's no heat problem. And that's why they swell up, is because they get a little bit too hot and they start to swell, especially when you're charging them. And because if the charger detects that the battery is getting a little bit too warm while it's charging, it'll reduce the amperage so it charges it slower. But these batteries, the dummy batteries, don't have that, a true sensor in there. So the battery overheats slightly, even though it's not hot to the touch. And that's what makes these swell a lot. And that's why I never charge batteries in camera. Because I don't want them to swell. Because they get hot inside the camera because it's totally enclosed. Okay, so I like to get into photography biz. Since it's self-employment, how... Ooh, that's a... How do you get into photography? It's no different than any other business, with its own quirks in terms of what you can do. You know, you still need, you know, you don't have to get it. Well, it depends where you live too. But in the U.S., you don't technically need a business license if you're just going to be a sole proprietor, go out and take pictures. But you still have to pay taxes, collect sales tax, things like that. So you have to get a business, not a business license, but a tax ID number. So there, you know, there's some things involved. But I think any course in starting a business in the state that you live in will be enough. And then they may even give you tips on specifically about photography. I don't think they do here in Maryland or Virginia, but I haven't had any problems, but you know, because there's insurance requirements, things like that. But these are true for any business. So any business starting course, and then go to your state commerce, Department of Commerce maybe, or Small Business Administration, and in the U.S., and they should be able to help you with anything specific to photography, but generally to get your business started, they should be able to tell you everything you need to know. I'm interested in old lens, even with no autofocus for OM10. Do you think it makes a good job? Yeah. Yeah, the M10 Mark II is great. I mean, I like using the vintage Olympus lenses from their film cameras. Like, the cheapest one is like, well, this is the 24, but the cheapest one is like the 50 millimeter Zuiko lens with the adapter. And these are great. Okay, let's see. The best adapted OM lens. I mean, the 51.8 is one of my personal favorites. The 24 2.8 is really, really good. And then the 135 3.5 is very good. I think they have another one, but those are the three that I would recommend if you want to use an OM lens. Is the 24, so you get sort of a normal field of view. The 50s, so you get really nice bokeh, and it's very good for portrait. And then the 135 is your standard telephoto for, you know, some birding, not far away birding, but you know, if they're in a tree next to you, you know, you should be able to get pretty close. Smug Mug, okay. Someone's recommending Smug Mug for backing up your photos. Yeah, maybe. I mean, I need to think about it. I don't know, my catalog's a mess. Even with Lightroom, I'm still, like I said, nobody asked me about backing up or organizing photos ever, or how to clean a camera. Those are two things that I'm the last one you need to ask, is how to clean a camera and how to organize your photos and back them up. Yeah, gaffer's tape is good. It's a little pricier than electrical tape. I got 3 rolls of this for $1. I think one roll of gaffer's tape is like $7 or $8. But if you have gaffer's tape laying around, you can use that. And yeah, it's like a peel and stick. It doesn't leave any goo. I mean, electrical tape's really good about not leaving any residue when it's kind of, you know, normal temperatures. But when it gets hot, yeah, it might kind of get, you know, sticky. I stumbled upon a setting which I'm wondering why one would change it. Via default is turned on when shutter is half pressed. Wait. Default IBIS is turned on when when shutter is half pressed. This can be changed to fully pressed. Any ideas what's the case for it? I think that's when you do back button focusing, right? And you change the way the shutter button works by the AEL AFL mode. That's my best guess, is when you reassign the shutter button function, the focusing action, to the back button focus. That would be my guess. Because then when you have back button focus, there's no half pressing, right? It's either on or off. So that would be my guess. Is your Fuji hitch satisfied, or will you be looking at trying different model? No, I'm not going to get another Fuji. The only other Fuji that interested me was maybe the XT30 with a 23 millimeter. But none of that's image stabilized, so I'm just I don't, yeah. I think I'm pretty much sad, you know, that itch is gone for Fuji. The film simulations are okay. I mean, they're just different. And you know, when you see all these images from people, you know, and how wonderful the Fuji images look, I mean, that's about 90% the photographer and 10% because of the Fuji colors. You know, because you give an Olympus camera to the same photographer and you look at the image, you'd be like amazed at Olympus colors. But I think it has a lot to do with the photographer than Fuji itself. Now, for the novice, right, going out and taking pictures, if they can see it, that's good. But I'm looking for it, and I'm having a hard time seeing enough difference for me to get excited about Fujifilm colors anymore. Oh, John is saying that Watson is the only third-party battery. Yeah, like I said, some guy independently reviewed it. He was just a camera photographer like anyone else, but he did a pretty exhaustive test with some more sophisticated gear, measuring amperage and draw, and he really knew the insides out. I wish I could find that article again. I looked for it one day so I could share it with you guys, but I can't find it. But Watson batteries, as far as third party, is the only one that I know has any cred. OMD EM1 picture modes. Please, could you explain the sharpness adjustment versus noise reduction? Okay, well, sharpness, all the settings in the camera, these are to affect the JPEGs only. Your raw image is not affected by sharpness or contrast or RGB versus sRGB. So if you're shooting raw, don't even worry about it. Now, if you're shooting JPEG, or when you look at the raw images in Workspace, it's showing you the embedded JPEG image, or it's showing you all of the things processed. But sharpening is just a very fine level of contrast. So what the camera's doing, or the software, is looking for areas of contrast and then making it a little bit more contrasty, like making one edge a little brighter, one edge a little darker, right around where the edge is. And what happens is, when people over Okay, sorry, can you guys hear me now? I did get the new keyboard, Dave. I'm starting to wonder if it's my computer or this software, because this is free software, right? OBS. I might have to get a paid one. Can you guys see me too? You guys can see me. Okay, good. Oh yeah, I was talking to Dave about sharpness. So sharpness is just basically increasing contrast around the edges, so it's a perceived, but it's doing it a few pixels at a time, so it's perceived. Noise reduction, and there's also something called Well, there's two noise reduction things, and I can never remember exactly what's called what. Uh, I believe the noise reduction is actually something to do with longer shutter speeds. Let me just go in the menu. I know when I get in the menu, I'm kind of in my zone, right? Oh, crap. I can't see the screen now. Sorry. Let me put on my screen. Yeah, sorry. Noise filter. So noise reduction is related to longer shutter speeds. And what it'll do is, let's say you have a 5-second exposure. It'll take the 5-second exposure, then close the shutter, take another 5-second exposure with the shutter closed to read the camera's internal noise, and then it subtracts that noise it finds from the original image that you took the first time. So it always takes 2 shots. So if it's a 5-second exposure, you have to budget 10 seconds time. 30 seconds, you have to budget a full minute. And then the other thing called noise filter has to do with the JPEGs. And I just turn that off generally because it does some noise reduction anyway, even when it's off. That's good enough in most cases. So hopefully that answered your question. Okay. What is the highest ISO setting you recommend on EM5 II? Oh, okay, Dave. Well, hopefully. I feel like I skipped a question. Oh yeah, too old for toys. Yeah, the 45 is better. If you can get a 45 1.8, I would skip getting a 50 millimeter f 1.8 OM. I mean the 50 millimeter does feel like it's giving a shallower depth of field, but you have to crank it up to f 2.8 to get a really tack sharp image. Wide open, it's still a tiny bit soft. Not as bad as my Fuji, but yeah, the 45 1.8 is definitely better. The 50 1.8 I only put on when I feel like manually focusing and just feeling nostalgic, but it's not as good as the 45 from Olympus. Okay, audio's out. What's the highest ISO setting? All right, so I never worry about ISO setting. I put it in auto ISO up to 25,000. On the EM1 Mark II, I have to limit that to 6400. But that being said, statistically speaking, when I looked at my catalog from this year, 2019, ISO 1600 or lower is what I shot 88% of my images. And then the other 12% I shot everywhere else. Although in my mind, I don't worry about it, like about high ISO shots. But when I actually go out and shoot, that's actually what ends up happening in real life is my images are ISO 1600 and lower 88% of the time. 50% of the time, they're actually ISO 200 and lower. So I'm always very conscious of the ISO on one hand when I'm actually out in the field, it seems. But in practice, my mindset is don't worry about ISO. There's kind of a conflict there that I need to resolve somewhere. Because when I looked at my 2019 catalog, I was a little surprised to see that I only had 1,600 images, or I only had that 88% of my images were 1,600 and lower. I thought it'd be a much smaller amount, that I'd have a lot, over 12,000, but I don't. Okay, let's see. Will you be able to tell us how many megapixels you can get on EM10 Mark III when you shoot in RAW? I know it's a 16 megapixel sensor, but I don't know more than that from your question. I'm not sure what else I can say. Yeah, I got the new keyboard. Everybody can hear me. Yeah, OBS has been pretty solid, so I think there's something with my laptop, because my laptop, I can't do firmware updates to my cameras on this laptop either. I have to get my older laptop out to do it. I don't know why it freezes up, and you can imagine my shock and horror when I was trying to update my EM1 Mark II recently to 3.1 or whatever, that and the camera froze up on me during the firmware update. Oh my god. Fortunately, I was okay, and I was able to update the firmware on a different computer, but there's something going on with this one time to time. Alright, that looks like the... Hi, when did this start? We started about an hour ago. Jan, sorry. Wow, there's still a lot of people here. I was just seeing how many people are online. I'll have to figure out how to manage these screens a little better, because you know, you get all these warnings about privacy and stuff that I get that, you know, you guys are seeing a lot of stuff that I normally wouldn't share, right? But okay, I mean, I got nothing to hide really, but at the same time, too much information, right, online already. The less I can broadcast, the better. Not because of you guys, but just the hackers and people out there in general. Okay, so I feel really bad because of my last live stream. Solar Body had asked me about wanted feedback on my thoughts on this Olympus, or I'm sorry, on this Fuji X100F. And I can tell you it's really not the right camera for me because of the lack of image stabilization. As far as handling goes, it's okay. I mean, it's a brick with a tiny bit of grip here. So it could use that fancy thumb thing that they sell separately for like $60. That's kind of ridiculous. I've seen generics for like $10 I might get. You know, I'm just not used to the controls yet, but the controls are fine. What's ironic is they put all these dials on the top, and I use the exposure comp time to time, but this ISO and shutter speed thing are always on auto for me, because I shoot auto ISO aperture priority. So this is kind of a wasted space for me too. Whereas, you know, if you look at an Olympus camera, I can quickly change the mode dial right here to video mode or whatever. Manual mode, aperture, shutter priority, whereas on this camera I have to go into the menu to change modes. So in terms of workflow, this is not working for me too well. In addition to the lack of image stabilization is affecting my images too, because I do shoot at slow shutter speeds a lot. And I am and I'm not afraid of high ISO, but even at high ISO I'm still at like 1/10 of a second. So those are the two main issues. The other thing I can nitpick is, you know, and I shouldn't say anything because you buy the camera knowing this, right? But it doesn't have an articulating screen. And that's been a bigger problem for me than I expected too, because I'm so used to tilting the screen. So there's a lot of other issues. And then a lot of the money you're paying for this camera is because of this optical viewfinder. And I never use it. I always use the EVF, right? So an XE3 might have been not even XE3, because that doesn't have IBIS or anything. But yeah, so Solar Body, if you're watching, yeah, it's not working for me too well in terms of workflow and uh, mainly for workflow issues. You know, being able to change modes and things quickly. I mean, the colors and the images are fine, but nothing I can't do on my Olympus cameras that I'm already very, you know, I got all the muscle memory and brain muscle memory going, so I can quickly navigate around that. Uh, all right, the latest update app is really good. However, I still don't get why you can't share 4K video. It makes no sense to me. Oh, yeah, I haven't tried the latest apps from Olympus on your phone. But 4K video is, I think it's just a file size issue. It's just so big, you'd be waiting, you know, an hour to download a 10-minute video. Okay, so question is raw from when the complexity of the scene changed the amount of raw data recorded. Yeah, I forget which direction it goes, but if the image is very dark, the file sizes are usually small. And if the image is very bright, the file sizes are generally larger. Or vice versa, one way or the other. And if there's lots of colors and fine details, yeah, the file sizes get larger. Last time someone mentioned an EM1 Mark II firmware update that adding color wheels. Hey Chuck, you know, I think he was talking about in Workspace, not in the camera itself. So that when he went into Workspace, he was able to use the color wheels in Workspace now on his EM10 Mark II files, whereas he wasn't able to before. I haven't gone back to check that because I don't use the color wheels a lot. So, but if I recall, I wasn't able to myself either. But yeah, there's no firmware update right now for the EM10 to do color wheels. But I think that's where the confusion was. He was referring to Workspace, not his camera directly. Yeah, I got. Oh yeah, so the lens on this camera doesn't actually have a filter ring on the inside, so I had to use one of my ring adapters that I use for my filters, because there is threading on the outside. It's a 52 millimeter threading on the outside of the lens, so I just screwed on a 52 to 49 millimeter ring adapter, and then oh, you can see it right there. KNF 52 to 49. So I screwed that on, and then the vintage Olympus Zuiko lenses are 49 millimeter lens caps, right? So it just fit on there just perfect. I think this is a lens cap for my 50 millimeter OM lens. Friends don't let friends buy Fuji. That's funny. It's the X100F is the Fuji I bought. Because, you know, all of the Fujis are very well regarded. And, you know, when I go on to Instagram and Flickr and I look at the images from Fujifilm photographers, I'm just in awe of the colors and things, right? And, you know, when they're showing off specifically different film simulations, they're really amazing. Also, I have several Fujifilm cameras, but they're very old. Like this one is from 2005, right? But it has chrome on it, right? And I went out and took pictures using chrome, and I was like, these are pretty nice. So I had to scratch that itch and just, okay, I don't want to buy a camera that I have to start buying lenses for, because then, you know, there goes my credit card, right? I'm going to blow the limits out of the water with that. So I said, I'm just going to get a camera that I'll never have to buy a lens for. And that's why I got this one. And it's fairly compact, right? And people love this thing. You know, street shooters particularly. And you know what kills me is they always talk about like, oh, it has the leaf shutter, so it's very quiet, but then you can do sync speeds up to 1/1000th of a second. Blah. I'm like, come on, I've never seen anybody use a flash with this camera. I mean, you know, there are people out there that do, but they tout all the features of a camera that just don't really matter, you know. It wouldn't matter to me if this had a focal plane shutter or leaf shutter. Uh, and then the dials, oh, I talked about that. But yeah, it's not, I think I'll keep it, but I paid 800 bucks for it, so I don't know. If I'm still within a window of return here. Which OMD are you using for real estate these days? I saw an old video. Yeah, I was using the EM10 Mark II up until I busted the battery door on it. Here. So then when this broke, I switched to my EM1 Mark II. And I've been using that for the last 3 months, maybe. And I might go back to just using this again. I mean, the image quality there's no difference for real estate because you downsize the images to 2 megapixels anyway for the agent. Yeah, the Gray Vanzini, yeah, no articulating screen on the XE3 either. So I'm not a Fuji fan. Live connections are very good these days. Actually, I upload and download 4K from Google Drive all the time. Yeah, well, it's more than just the Wi-Fi with 4K video. I think the challenge is partially the cameras are, and I think it's an arbitrary decision by Olympus not to let you upload 4K images because they know generally they're very large and will drain the battery. So I don't know if they just arbitrarily said we're not going to go there because then we'll get complaints about the battery drains when you're using Wi-Fi, yada yada. Because there's a few arbitrary decisions I think Olympus needs to let the photographer decide what they want to do, not artificially limit things like auto ISO on the EM1 Mark II is limited to 6400. That's an arbitrary decision in my opinion. Not being able to transfer 4K video files I think is also an arbitrary decision. So I don't disagree with you that it's something they should do, but I think their thinking was, they wanted to avoid that conversation is about draining the battery and taking forever to upload files to your phone. That's just a tech support issue too, right? Because people are going to be calling in, why is it taking an hour to upload a file? Or it freezes up when actually it's still loading. So I think that decision might have been from the back end on tech support because people are going to call, right? Why is this taking so long? So there's a lot of arbitrary decisions there that I think Olympus is doing. Oh, hey Noe, how you doing? Yeah, the Zuikos are very good lenses. I take them out all the time. I noticed this is my 50 millimeter on my film camera, but I use this on my digital cameras too. Yeah. Ray Vanzini, you and I are in the same boat, man. I got 4 or 5 Olympus or Fujifilm cameras that were all bridge cameras or compacts or like here's my waterproof one, right? I got this on clearance for $70 at Walmart. Anyway, yeah, the bridge camera was a gift from my dad, and then I got 2 other very, very old ones, the MX 2700 and another MX camera that used the old skinny memory cards. Yeah, John, I looked at the XQ2. And that's about a third the cost of this frickin' X100F. It just doesn't have a viewfinder, if I recall. And I'm kind of a big viewfinder guy time to time. But I did look at that one very closely. And I looked at like the X30s and X20s, but those are a little harder to come by locally. I was able to buy this camera at my local camera store, so that really influenced my decision to go with this. Okay. Yeah, so Dave's talking about how 4K video is, almost 10 times the size of a 1080p. We take the fault of less intelligent specimens that call to argue, but I'm not sure what you're talking about. Yeah, I haven't tried the Fuji app, but let me tell you the problem. I'm sorry, I did try the Fuji app once, and I just wanted to see it, and it's fine. It does what it needs to do. Basically, you can set aperture and shutters. You can do settings and things in it. The problem I had with the app, and the main reason I loaded it actually was to sync the time on this camera, because I accidentally put November in here when I meant to say October because I bought it last week. And when you when you when you when you Wi-Fi connect your camera to your phone on any Olympus camera, it syncs the time and date for you automatically. And I do that all the time. I sync this camera with another camera with another camera, because when I go out and I vlog or do tutorials, I have to sync 3 or 4 different cameras together to make one video, right? And if the time is exactly the same on all of them, I know, it helps me organize those things when I put them back into post-processing. So when I connected this Fujifilm camera to the app, lo and behold, the time and date didn't change. So I don't know if there's a way to make this sync exactly to the time and date on a phone or your computer, but I haven't found it yet. I'm not looking that hard, to be honest, but it didn't automatically do it when I connected to the app. So that could be another potential issue with this camera, is the time and date doesn't sync up when you attach it to the Wi-Fi app like it does with our Olympus cameras. Okay, any other questions? Wow, there's still a lot of people here. Jen, Dave, I know, but I can send 10-minute 1080p video, not... Yeah, Jan, honestly, it's just an unnecessary limit. But like I said, I think they did it for very arbitrary reasons that they only know. Um, I don't know why Olympus limits things other than they don't want a tech support nightmare loading large files. Because I think I tried to download a 10-minute 1080p video one time, and I don't know how long it took, but it was too long for me. Whether it was 5 minutes, if something takes more than a couple of minutes to download, I don't want to do it. Huh, I'm getting popular. I seriously doubt it. You know what's funny is I look at my stats for my live streams, and generally speaking, I lose subscribers on my live streams rather than gain any. I haven't figured that one out yet, because it usually has like a 100% like, right? But then when I look at my stats, it's like, yeah, you lost 25 subscribers during this live stream. I'm like, holy crap. But I do it because most of you seem to have, some questions, and I just want to help, really. I don't really care about subscriber counts, other than it gives me a little bit of street cred, right? If I walk in with 100,000 subscribers somewhere, that's not a small thing, right, to do on YouTube. But under 100,000 subscribers, you're really kind of insignificant in the YouTube world. I'm not familiar with Cam Ranger, to be honest. I know Richard Baum does use Cam Ranger, and he's reviewed them for his. I think he uses Sony now, but I didn't watch those videos because I just wasn't interested. I don't use those kind of things, so sorry. Sorry. I wish I could give you better feedback, Abdul. I don't. I just don't use Cam Ranger products at all. I guess it's some kind of remote control or something, right? Okay. I'm glad to see a lot of you guys are here today. A lot of my regulars. Oh no. Oh, let me see. Yeah, Noe. I'm glad you dropped in, Noe. I've been checking out your anime videos lately, like how to get that anime look. So you went with Fuji. That's good. I mean, like I said, it's a fine camera. It just isn't a good fit for me. Is it possible to put a manual Leica lens from the M system on an Olympus? Yeah, they sell Leica M mount adapters, and it's awesome because they're very short flange distance. You know, they're only about that long. Unlike the normal flange distance, you know, like a normal one has a pretty like 1 inch distance, but the Leica ones are very small. It's probably only about, you know, a quarter inch or less. Leica M lens is no problem. Uh, oh, thanks, Jan. Well, I'm getting mine in about 3 weeks. My EM5 Mark III. Um, and I'll talk about it. Like I said, I'm just gonna take it out and use it and tell you guys what it's like. I mean, it's too difficult for me to like test, you know, ISO performance or autofocus performance or, you know, pixel peep things to a degree that it matters. I don't have the equipment or the labs things to precisely measure those things. So even if I was to do it, um, nothing I'm using lab wise, like gear wise, would really give you a good reflection of that. Um, let's see. Olympus should have. Sorry for my English. Oh, it's okay, Andreas. You know, there's a lot of people that English is their second language on my channel, and barely a second language. Like they just barely speak any, but they try, and I really admire that and appreciate that. Um, and I'm really good at trying to read between the lines of anything that you write, even if the English is broken up. Because and Noe, you're gonna appreciate this, okay? But my mother is Korean, so I'm half Korean. So I grew up in an environment where I was always surrounded by people that couldn't speak English. So I had to do my best to try to interpret what they were saying. So yeah, if English is not your first language, okay, just type something, and I'll try and figure it out, and hopefully I can answer in a way that you understand. Um, what kind of brand? What kind of brand? Original Olympus only. Oh, let me go back, Andres. Oh no, you can buy generic M adapters from anyone. I mean, I like Neewer. I think Neewer makes one. I think I have one in my shopping cart. Let me look at my wish list. Uh, get a little insight into my shopping habits here. Oh, Green Extreme. Sorry. While we're in my shopping list, Green Extreme is the other battery that did very well in the generic battery testing, and then the Watsons. But where's that stupid adapter at? It's in here. Here it is. Is this it? No. Crap. Go all the way to the bottom. I used to have it in here. Oh, here it is. Photodiox. Leica M to Micro Four Thirds adapter. Sorry, hopefully you can see that. Let me get my head out of the way. Right there. Photodiox lens mount adapter. See? Okay. What made you start video sessions? And thanks for giving us good advice. Oh, you know, I just like talking to you guys directly in terms of doing live streams. It's, you know, I'm just, when I do my videos and my tutorials, I'm very dry and just, I mean, I do them because I really want to help people, but then being live like this, I think helps a lot of people too, more directly. And I'm actually, like I said, I'm more gregarious in person, right? And this is about as close as we can get to being in person. So that's kind of what made me start. You walk the walk before you talk the talk. Yeah, I try. I try to not speculate too much. You know, I just go out and shoot, and then I can tell you guys what I thought. You know, AC/DC, thanks for bringing that up, because in my last live stream, somebody was asking me about how can you use keywords in Workspace. AC/DC has a very good cataloging system for ITPC information. And, you know, it's not well known, but it looks like it's very good relative to everything out there. And it's not any more expensive than any other third-party software. If I remember, it was like $80 or something, or maybe $100 for the Pro. They have different levels and tiers. But AC/DC, yeah, that was on my short list of things to get, separate from everything else I'm using, because it's able to catalog via the ITPC information. Yeah, no, so you could probably talk to my mom better than I can. Because she's, you know, she's been in this country forever, and still I'm always correcting her English. Did you order the grip for your new EM5? No, I did not get a grip. I will think about that after I handle the camera a little bit. If I think it needs it, I'll get it, but I didn't order it. Yeah, Andreas. Yeah, it's what was it on my Amazon? It was $20 or $21. You know what's weird though is different people get different pricing. So I'm gonna give you a little tip. Okay, this is a secret tip here. Before you go shopping on Amazon, first go into your browser and clear out all your cookies. Then go to another site like Best Buy or Staples or B&H. Go to all the other sites. Go to about 3 or 4 different sites that have the same exact item you're looking for. and then log into Amazon or whatever account you have and go to Amazon and shop. I guarantee the price will be lower. Will be lower than anyone else. Sometimes it's only $1 lower than anyone else. Sometimes it's significantly lower. And the same goes true for other companies. You know, I was shopping for some office supplies once, and I went online and I said, why did the price go up? I don't understand. You know, just 30 minutes ago it was, you know, $25, and now they're asking me $35. So I cleared all the cookies. I went to Amazon and shopped for these office supplies. Then I went to Staples website and shopped for the same office supply, and lo and behold, the price was lower. So I don't know how these websites are detecting what cookies and sites you went to, but they know you've been shopping around. And so you have to clear out all your cookies, go to the site that you don't want to buy it from to get the lowest price, then go to the site you want to buy it from, and I guarantee it'll be lower. Yeah, Dave. Yeah, that's a good point. I might wait for a new third party grip from somewhere. You know, I might. It's a tough call. 179 is not crazy expensive if it has the. Excuse me. I need to get a mute button. uh, it's not crazy if it has the shutter button and dial control on it. That might be worth a little bit extra. But yeah, sometimes third-party grip is better. Yeah, all these companies, they know exactly what's going on. It's crazy. Man. All right, let me wow, there's still a lot of people on. Oh, you're welcome, John. Yeah, it works, man. Most of the time. Sometimes items are fixed, right, by the manufacturer, and no matter what site you go to, it's the same price. But for like weirdo stuff, you know, like accessories and things, yeah. I find things sometimes if you add it to your wish list in Amazon and come back a few days later after you went shopping around other places, and then you come back to your wish list, it'll say this item in your wish list has dropped in price by 10% or something, right? So that's another way to do it. All right, Dave, good night. Yeah, if no one has any other questions, I'm gonna call it because, like I said, I wanted to go to this this thing here. Is anybody going to this that's local to me? I don't know. It'd be cool if we could meet up here. It's about an hour away from me, but set your browser to clear cookies on close. Yeah, I guess that works too. I thought I had that set up though. I don't know. But yeah, there's a lot of ways. There's a lot of ways to clear cookies and history, clear your histories. Because like I said, when I was doing it with office supplies, it worked. When I do it with some camera gear, it works. Oh, hey, Tom. Yeah, the Pen F is awesome. And the G9 is awesome camera. Yeah, I mean, I wish I had more time and money. I would buy all the cameras. But I don't have the time to learn them all, and I certainly don't have the money. Oh, hi, Wendy. Oh, you're still having trouble. Okay. Well, is there anything specifically I might be able to answer that you're having trouble with? Just let me know which camera you have and then what you're having trouble with, and I'll see if I can steer you in the right way. Because I know in my first video for beginners, so episode 1, the I forgot to tell people to put your camera in aperture priority, I think. So a lot of people, I got a lot of questions about this is grayed out. I said, oh, you need to be an aperture priority. But yeah, if you have any specific question, I'll try my best. Or if it's more general, like some problems you're having, maybe I need to make a new video. Wendy, have you seen my beginning series video, Olympus for Beginners playlist? Because if you've seen that, that's pretty basic. I mean, I could go even more basic, but that's about as basic as I can get online. Yeah, so let me know if you've seen my Olympus for Beginners series. If you've seen that, then we need to go even more basic than that. I can do that. But I think when I made those videos, I made a couple of assumptions. Not too many, really, because I showed you how to format a memory card, which is very, very basic, I think. It's been a while since I made that video. Like I said, I need to... So you can only get through 1 or 2 episodes on the beginner series. Okay. And then at what point do you get stuck? Is it the... Oh, you need a whole list. Okay, yeah. There's a playlist. If you go to my channel, let me pull this up. YouTube. So, all right, I'm going to send you a link. There you go. So that's the link to the whole playlist for beginners. All right. I think I'm going to call it if there's no other questions. Okay, Wendy, hopefully that'll get you started, that series. But you're able to get through the first 2 videos okay? You didn't have any questions from those? Because if you have any questions on any videos, I know they're really old, but if you comment on those videos with a question, it'll show up on my YouTube and I can answer it. Yeah, the audio, because I'm eyeballing it, man. Let me tell you. I am eyeballing it, making sure it doesn't go out. But I think the key is I can't open a browser, like a new tab on the same window that I'm live streaming with. Because right here I have, oh, you can, people can't see the questions here. But I have the live stream window over here. And let me go this way. And what I was doing before, I was trying to open up a new tab on that same browser, and then I lost audio. Whereas if I open it up separately, it seems to not lose audio so much. Oh no, I've never tried a Mikey lens. The Mikey lenses, they have a 35 and a 50, and I think since then they've come out with a bunch more. But David Thorpe did a good review on, I think, the 35. He liked it. It was a good lens, and they're cheap. They're like $80, right? And then the Christopher Frost, I think his name. He does the pixel peeping type videos on different lenses. That might be a good one to check out for anything Mikey related. Oh, someone's asked me about color space. sRGB. I mean, long story short, It's very rare somebody has a monitor or a phone or a screen or anything that can see Adobe RBG. 99% of what people use is sRGB, and to get Adobe RGB capable monitors and phones, or if they even exist, are very expensive. Those are like prosumer levels, and it's only a little bit more color. So just keep it in sRGB, because if you shoot in our Adobe RGB, it'll load in, but the colors won't look right on your monitor unless you have an Adobe RGB monitor. So if you have an Adobe RGB monitor and shoot in RAW, you can work with Adobe RGB color in that color space, and then convert it back to sRGB, right? That's an effective workflow. But if you're shooting, if your JPEGs are embedded with Adobe RGB or versus sRGB, then the problem is when people look at your Adobe RGB JPEGs on an sRGB monitor, the colors may not look the way that you see them on your monitor. If you're, so yeah, sRGB is, long story short. Yeah, Wendy, I do have a very small series on Olympus Workspace. I haven't really done a beginner series. I've focused more on individual functions within the workspace, but you can go to my channel and you'll see a playlist. So just go to youtube.com/robtrek, and if you go there, you'll somewhere on that page there's a playlist for Olympus Workspace that has, individual tutorials for different settings. Oh, hey Queenie, you went to GMU, huh? Oh, that's cool. Are you still local in the area? Or you're out of town? I don't know. You don't have to say that online. That's okay. But yeah, I'm local in DC metro area. So, okay, Nikos, yeah, so sRGB is fine. Like I said, shooting an Adobe RGB JPEG, most people aren't going to be able to appreciate that. Yashwant, lost Wi-Fi. Did I lose Wi-Fi or did you lose Wi-Fi? I don't know. But all right, I'm gonna go to this photo show. Okay, so if anybody's in the area and want to go and meet me there, I'll be there. Okay. Thanks for everybody joining me on the live stream, and when I get some time, I'll put these all together and do a highlights thing. But I don't know. Some people just want to watch the whole thing for a couple hours. God knows why. Maybe while they're vacuuming, I think somebody said. But okay, so you lost Wi-Fi. Weren't you the guy complaining about the not being able to download 4K? Well, anyway, that's the other problem with long downloads, right? Is Wi-Fi is not always 100%. But all right, guys and ladies, thanks again. We'll see you again soon. I would get the Olympus 75 to 300. It's a great lens. I mean, a lot of people like the 100 to 300, but there's always some firmware updates you have to watch out for when you use Panasonic lenses, and I think there was one on that 100 to 300, so it's more compatible with the Olympus cameras. So check your firmware updates on the Olympus website. The Olympus Panasonic collab website where they show the firmware updates. But if you have the latest firmware on all the cameras and lenses, you should be fine either way. But I have no experience with the 100 to 300. But okay, I'm gonna go. I'm catch that show. Maybe I'll vlog a little bit and I'll post a video of that when I in a day or two. All right, thanks again. We'll see you later.